Hi, I'm Congressman Pat Fallon. I wanted to visit with you today about House Bill 4350. We call it the National Defense Authorization Act. Some people online want to make money, and they're raising funds saying that it was a passage of a red flag laws. Are you kidding me? I would never, ever, not in 1,000 years, vote for anything that infringed upon the Second Amendment. So let me tell you the truth about what this bill did. It's the National Defense Authorization Act. This is what we use to fund our military, to keep us safe. Now, unfortunately, there are folks that try to attach, like what we call the Christmas tree ornaments. They try to attach things that are unrelated to defense onto the bill. And they try to make them seem like they're germane. They're not. So what happened, let me address first, the red flag law. We considered 750 amendments to the NDAA. It took about 18 and a half hours. There was a clerical error and a piece of garbage amendment that never should have been attached to the bill was accidentally attached. As soon as it was discovered, all parties, and I'm talking House Democrats and in the Senate, agreed that they would strip it out. So we know this will not become part of the final bill, and it will never become law. If it does, I will be voting no on the National Defense Authorization Act, and I sit on the House Armed Services Committee. Now, there are other criticisms of this bill, like why didn't you demand in this legislation to hold Milley accountable? The Democrats control this process, folks. There's 222 of them in the House and only 213 Republicans. They're not going to ever hold Milley to account. This is about funding the United States military. The way we hold General Milley to account is taking over the majority in November of 2022. And then we will have plenty of very appropriate hearings on whether or not he undermined the Commander-in-Chief, President of the United States, and committed treason. That's what needs to happen, but it will never happen while the Democrats control the House and the Senate. That's the best way to hold Milley to account. We're not going to ever be able to get it added to a national defense bill under the Democratic control. This bill was a bipartisan bill. This is kind of the last vestiges of, at least on the Armed Services Committee, as close to bipartisanship as you can get. I'm not saying it is bipartisan, but it's close. And the most progressive, regressive, socialist/Marxist in the Democratic caucus, there's about 40 of them. You know some of them, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and Cori Bush and Ariana Presley, and then Tlaib and Omar up in Michigan and Minnesota, respectively. They don't want a military. They don't want a police either. And I really, truly believe in my heart of hearts, they don't love the country. And I know that the mainstream media will get on me about that, but I really believe that in my heart of hearts. Be that as it may. They voted against the NDAA. So you're telling me that crew would vote against red flag laws? No, they wouldn't. They love that because they want to take your guns. They actually really want to. They admit it. The reason why they voted no on the NDAA is because they also knew that language was going to get stripped. And this bill wasn't woke enough for them. Wasn't woke enough. Because it's a pretty damn good bill. It's the best product that we're going to get under Democratic leadership. And that tells you a lot. So, and I'm just going to be very candid here. There are some House Democrats that actually want to defend this country. And there are many, like the Squad, who I believe are really, truly Marxists. They don't have any interest in having a military. And they certainly, it's the same folks that want to defund the police. Well, there's about 40 of them. So the House Democrats that are running the Armed Services Committee had a choice. They could either work with Republicans and give us some wins and craft what they believed it would be a very good bill for the country, or they could just jettison it and make it a purely Democratic bill, nothing bipartisan about it. But they would have to work with those 40 socialists/Marxists who don't even want a military, who would really want to leave us undefended. I mean, it would be literally catastrophic. They chose not to do that. So we work together on a bipartisan basis. Now, there are some things, when you're spending $768 billion, which this bill does, there's going to be some things that we don't like as conservatives. But there's also some good things in it. So I just wanted to go through it real quickly so you can see. You have to realize, in this entire year, we've been getting briefings. The Chinese Communist Party has committed to a 7% increase in their military spending. We need to match that, and Biden didn't want to do that. So we negotiated very hard, and we got a significant increase in defense spending in this bill. That was a huge win. Russia remains a threat. They're hardening their nuclear submarines. So put China and Russia aside, there are still a lot of people that want to hurt us. There's terrorists, Islamic fundamental terrorism hasn't died. President Trump did a great job in 4 years subduing it. But so what this does, in the NDAA, some wins that we got as Republicans, it increases defense spending by $25 billion. We will be investigating the Chinese Communist Party's involvement in the origins of COVID-19 because that was catastrophic to the global economy and it killed millions of people and it leaked out of that laboratory. All signs and evidence point to that. Didn't come from a bat from a market. But they want to blame President Trump, not the Chinese Communist Party. I had an amendment that recognized that securing the border is a national security issue. That actually passed because we were able to get 5 Democrats to vote with all 28 Republicans. So on the committee, there's 31 Democrats and 28 Republicans. We won that vote 33-26, which is just remarkable that 26 Democrats don't think that the border is a national security issue. This also provides a 2.7% pay increase to our brave men and women in uniform. It prohibits punishment for political views on social media accounts from active duty military members. It also prohibits a dishonorable discharge if you refuse the COVID-19 vaccine, and that's a big deal. It also increases the money, about $180 million for Humvee rollovers. That's something that we do at Red River Army Depot, which is in our district. We had about 150 service members die in rollovers. This will correct that. And it will also save $12.9 billion by not buying a slew of new Humvees, but just outfitting the ones that we have. So it was a big win for all of our service members, but big win for folks here at home. It also prevents the House Democrats from gutting funding for much needed nuclear modernization. We've got to get the triad up and running. Some of those missiles are far too old. It requires a report on personally identifying information and biometrics of Americans that Joe Biden gave to the Taliban. It requires itemized listing of aircraft and combat vehicles and all other weaponry left in Afghanistan. $85 billion the American taxpayers spent on defending that nation, and there's about, we think, $15 billion or so that were still left there. It requires the DoD and DNI to give us assessments on China's efforts to expand its presence and influence in Latin America, expands DoD cooperation and support for Taiwan. Now, in a bill like that, I'm new here, but I figured it's not going to be perfect. But it's the best product we had. We made it a far better product because of the negotiation and the skill set of the Republicans on the House Armed Services Committee, particularly our leadership. So I want to wrap this up real quickly, but that's the full truth of the matter. We are never going to infringe on the Second Amendment. And there are some things, minor things in the bill that I'm not too fond of, but we're going to try to strip as much of it out in committee as possible. Just so you know the truth, please feel free to share this video. Thanks very much. Feel free to reach out to us if we can do anything for you, if you have any further questions. Thank you so much. God bless America, and let's defeat the Marxists together.